Hello everybody, my name is Dimitri with Rigwell, and today we're putting together a stash cab. Let's dig right in. Now before we dive in, there's a few things you want to make sure you have on hand. Number one is a pair of scissors. You'll understand what this is for later. It's paired with a lighter. Any kind of torch will do just fine. And then the major assembly tools required are going to be a 4mm hex drive. You can do like I did, one with a handle or just an Allen key is fine. And then a 10mm socket wrench or standard wrench will do just fine. Now, another thing to get off my chest is this instructional video is a bit of an early video, and there will be another subsequent video replacing this in the future. So if you're watching this now, there's some things I'm going to note and bring up about this cabinet, and maybe parts that I'll intentionally leave out and explain why. But the major reason is this product, just like with every other Rigwell product, is undergoing some changes, some improvements. So the future product may have some minor details that are different, but the core of it is all the same. All that we're changing really is things for ease of assembly, but the hardware is going to be the same. General assembly style is going to be the same, just a few minor tweaks. And the last thing that I want to mention is in order to assemble this cabinet, you're going to need this cabinet. So get yourself a stash cab. This assembly process does apply to both the stash cab, open tall and open slim, and to a limited extent it's very close to the same process for the 48-inch slider. But without further ado, let's get this box open and start working on it. I have cracked this box open and I have some components in front of me. There are the sidewalls that I can set aside for now. There is the front face right here, and then the bottom section here. Now, in addition, in the current model of stash cabs, they also have these rear bracers and these sections here to join cabinets together. As a matter of fact, let me rip them out here and show you what they look like. Come on, baby. All right. Cool. So this guy here it's a wing that goes in the back. So when you're joining cabinets, you have a little bit of bolstered strength up there. These two components are components that well, one of two things. Number one, in questions asked to the previous owner of Rigwell, these are components that either are not used, don't have that much functional use, or just are discarded by customers entirely. This is a back corner bracer meant to mount up with the Adventure Wagon rear L-track. Although the bottom, let me show you that right here, this bottom piece on the back of the cabinet already aligns to the L-track. So as far as strength, this doesn't really give you much. And then this guy here, I'll explain kind of the challenges associated with having this, but this is not a piece I'm going to use today either way. So I'm going to set those two things aside. And then all I'm left with is my front, my bottom, and then my hardware, my bungee with some mounting things, and then my actual hardware I need to get. So first things first, we're going to crack open the hardware, separate the bolts from the clip nuts, and I'll explain the next step. First thing I will do is install these clip nuts. Let me see if I can get the focus to play here. There they are. The way these work is this is the inside face. Here, I'll show you the back so you know it's the inside. This is the inside face of this cabinet. There are square holes that are already cut for this. And the idea behind the clip nuts is from the inside of the cabinet, you pry one of those arms under there. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. And then getting this other section in is kind of a challenge. So what I like to do is get a flathead, or in this case, I'll use my 4mm hex, and I will press this wing in and then push down, and she snaps right in. There you go, folks. So that's kind of the easy way to do it. You can get tools to do this if you really want to spend the money, or you can just do it the Rigwell way, let's call it. Snap those suckers right in. And then there's really not much else to do on this panel. So we have our clip nuts all installed and we're ready for the next step. Next, I'm grabbing the front face, and this is how the cabinet comes together. So the bottom piece here lifts up, front slides underneath it, and then the holes for the clip nuts will align with the holes in the bottom. I will tip this over so I can show you what this looks like on the back side. There we go. And now the fasteners used to assemble this thing, these guys right here, are all the same length. So really you can go nuts and grab any from the pile. For me, I find it easier to just get all three of these clip nut mounting points threaded first, and then I'll go back and tighten them all down. So let me get these threaded and we'll circle back. There you go, folks. All three of these are assembled, and now our cabinet carcass is basically there. We're gonna move on to the next step, which involves opening up this bungee packet here. So let's crack it open and dig right in. To properly mount the bungee, you're going to utilize these teardrop shaped holes here. Now, one trick that I like to use is when I start, I will always start at the bottom corner of either side. It truly doesn't matter which side you start from. None of this will be visible anyway. And I'm gonna flip you around and show you what I do here real quick. Now, this kit comes with a specific type of end cap for this nylon. They look like this. And the idea is the nylon goes through there and then you close this and it snaps shut over it. But the reality is that's really hard to do and you have to get it just perfect. And the actual bungee itself has to be burned without a whole bunch of hard fraying sections. Let me take you guys in a little closer and show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so we can use those endings and rely on these alone, but I don't trust them. So what I do is just tie a single knot like this. There you go. And if you pull on this under the stress and strain of all of that elasticity, it's never going to come off. If you wanted to be a little extra, you can always cut this shorter, take your lighter, burn the end. And so, yeah, you're more than welcome to use these end caps if you'd like. They just go over like that and then they clamp. I'm not going to because I personally don't think they're as effective as something like this. So at this point, you can pull this through. Now this is anchored and we're gonna go string the rest of these and do the same thing on the other end. As far as stringing pattern, it's pretty basic. You go across, horizontally is always in front of the cabinet. I'm gonna pull it through all the way. And then vertically happens on the inside of the cabinet. So now I'll jump up one rung. As a matter of fact, this piece is kind of hard to feed, so I'm gonna burn it. And then reshape the tip a little bit. There we go. Now we'll be able to kind of pull things through a little smoother. So horizontally on the front of the cabinet, vertically on the back of the cabinet. And we just got one more run, and then we can start tightening some things up. So you'll notice the bungee here has a lot of slack, and you're not going to be able to just pull on this end and get it to where you need it. So this is where you have to decide, what am I using this cabinet for, and how much tension do I want? Now, if you don't know what you're going to use this cabinet for, you can just set it to just kind of mid-range tension. If you're going to do a lot of larger objects in this cabinet, say like moto helmets, things that might force itself through the bungee, you can pull these all much tighter. Or actually, if you're doing really large objects, it might even benefit you to make it a little looser so you can get them in, but really, it's up to you. I like my bungees all pretty darn tight, so I'm gonna go through and feed the bungee, tighten it up on the back, and I'm gonna press my finger into where it's seated as kind of like an anchor to hold that tension. So each time I'm pulling it, I'm putting my finger there to anchor it, just like so. And now I can make easy work of providing some much needed tension for this stash cab. So now we're back through the last hole, and we have a ton of leftover bungee. First things first, let's just check all these, make sure we're happy with how the tension's sitting. I'm pretty thrilled with it. And so the next thing is I'm gonna over pull the tension a little bit, tie another knot on the back side. There we go. And then let it go. Just make sure I'm happy with how this is. If this isn't enough tension, you can always pull it again, tighten everything up and tie another knot. That's the cool part, but I don't think I'm gonna need that. So I'll leave this as it is. Turn you guys around so you can get a view here. We're gonna cut this bungee where it sits. There we go. And then to prevent long-term fraying, I'm just gonna burn the ends of it. Voila, folks. So bungees are on, carcass is assembled. It's time to move on to some of the sidewalls. Now we move on to sidewalls. One really exciting thing I'm pretty stoked about recently is that we started offering accent colors for these cabinets. So if bamboo is just not your thing, we have 6 different colors now you can accent any of the stash cabs with. And today's video, I'm gonna go with white. So I have this placed kind of approximately where I think it's going to go. Then I'm just going to drop my screws in and get everything just temporarily aligned. Now, if you are looking to combine several of these stash cabs side by side, then the adjoining sides, maybe just leave them empty for now. I'll go over how to join those later in the video, but we're gonna drop all our screws in, everything looks good to go, and then on the inside, we're gonna take these nuts and thread them on. If you really want a rattle-proof, long-term, indestructible hold, get yourself some blue Loctite for something you might want to remove, some red Loctite for stuff you don't think you'll ever remove, and you can put a little drop of Loctite on the end of each of these fasteners, and it's never going to come loose. Now, I've got every single nut threaded on, and I mentioned earlier in the video that you could get a 10mm wrench, not a socket wrench. I don't even think I'm going to use this today. There's enough tension on the actual bolt and nut that when you use the hex key on this, it's going to tighten up just fine. So I'm going to go through and tighten every single one of these, and then we'll switch to the other side. While I'm here, worthy mention, these back holes are meant to fit this back bracer. This is not going in an adventure wagon build, and even if it was, we have brackets for the front and the back lines up fine, so you won't even really need this thing. But for those folks who decide they want the extra support, you can go ahead and slide this in, and these two rectangular slotted holes get clip nuts, and they correspond with these holes here. I'm not going to do that, but I also don't like an unfinished look with holes in it, so I'm just going to drop the screws in over this empty space and put nuts in anyway. These are just aesthetic fasteners. They're not going to do anything for me for strength, but then again, I don't need that bracket and I don't want an incomplete look, so I'm going to put them in anyway. If you're watching this later, in later revisions, we've done away with these holes. You're not going to need them at all anyway, but for folks who are getting the current lineup of stash cabs, this should do the trick for those looking for a polished look. Now, before I put this other side on, I want to take the time to make a worthy mention to those folks trying to join cabinet sections together. There's a couple ways to do it, and a couple ways I think aren't so great. I think the worst way to do it would be to take stash cabs and assemble all your side panels on and just stack them onto each other and pass longer screws through. I don't think that's the way to go. I think it adds a lot of extra space to the cabinets and it kind of looks ugly. If it were me, I would leave these open and bare like this and just put the opposing cabinet on here. And then we have a kit with longer fasteners. Should you want to join them together, you can get these longer, let me push it through here so you can see, these longer fasteners that can extend to reach through both. And these are made to be long enough for folks that want to join cabinets, but they still want that center partition. You can just put one single wall through here, pass the screw through the cabinet, through the wall, through the other cabinet, and put a nut on the other end. And you know, some cases you do want this partition for folks who have really large items that really want that 48 inches of internal storage. Maybe you'd be fine going without. So worth a mention, if you're thinking about joining several stash cabs together, get in touch with us. We'd love to get you guys one of these extended hardware kits. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to keep putting this together with the white accent panels, finish it up, show you guys what it looks like when it's done. And the last component left in your kit that you may not have touched yet is going to be this little guy right here. The idea for these is that there are some pre-made holes up top, and you take pliers and you pull this nipple through, and now you have these bumps that are sitting up top. Now, I think the only use for these is in the trash, because most of the feedback we get from customers and builders is that they don't need them, they don't use them, and they're there to mitigate any vibration or movement if your cabinets are mounted loose. But here at Rigwell, we don't believe in mounting cabinets loose. So we're not going to include them in future batches of cabinets. If you happen to purchase one with them, that's what it's for. You're welcome to put it in, but you're also welcome to store them on the ground like I just did. It's really up to you. Real quick, let's talk a little bit about mounting the stash cab. Now, if you're mounting it with a Circ Supply wall panel kit or ceiling kit, it's really easy for you. You just take out the existing 1/4 20 fasteners from your ceiling or walls, and then we have confirmed that all Rigwell mounting channels in the back and on the top front align with factory holes that we use riv nuts and 1/4 20 screws to mount. So in reality, the installation for you for this would be mounting the cabinet up in place, kind of dry fitting it, seeing which holes intersect with channels cut on the walls and ceilings, and then removing those screws and putting them back in through the cabinet. The aluminum is thin enough to where you have plenty of space. You don't have to get longer screws like you do with wood cabinets, so you're good to go there. Now, if you're installing this in a van that is not using a Circ Supply wall or ceiling panel kit, fear not. Adventure Wagon guys, we do sell brackets so that you can grab your standard L-track studs, mounted on the back, mounted on the front top, and everything's kosher. For all the rest, you have a variety of things to choose from. As always, I like to recommend using rivet nuts for everything, but if that's just not your style, you can always shoot directly to the ceiling with wood screws, or if you're shooting into metal with some self-tappers. But again, that's not my recommended method. I would prefer everybody use rivet nuts, but we just don't live in a perfect world where you have the ability or access. So mounting this thing's pretty simple. Joining them together, we've already gone over in the video. We'll do another video on the stash shelf and how that guy comes together. But in the meantime, that just about wraps up mounting this cabinet. There you have it, folks. That is the completed assembly of a stash cab. This assembly video and this process will apply to both the stash cab 24 tall and slim, and some of the other stash cabinets, like I mentioned, to an extent. For the 48-inch slider, it's kind of the same process. But I want to talk real quickly about the different color options. I alluded to the availability of white being as an option, but we also have pre-finished amber bamboo, pre-finished maple, black hex ply, folkstone gray, satin black, and satin white. Those are all options for any of the stash cab lineup and the stash shelves as well. So if you're looking to add a little bit of color variety to your cabinets for a low cost and an easy to assemble product that I could put together in the time it takes to drink a beer, well, this might be the product for you. So thank you if you've purchased this product and you're assembling, for supporting Rigwell, and I appreciate you watching this video to the end. If you have any comments, questions, or recommendations, we would love to hear them. But that just about concludes my TED Talk. So thank you for watching, and happy building.